Hey everyone, just wanted to give a quick disclaimer. This is a review, although it is not meant to be a video essay. I was originally going to make this video unlisted, as the script I'm reading off of is actually just the description of a DeviantArt post I'm releasing alongside this video. So, this won't really have that much in the way of editing or visual accompaniment. So just sort of leave this in the background, I guess. There is some visuals, but, like, it's not really the focus. I'm only making this public because, someone thought, oh yeah, it would make for a good video. So just keep that in mind. This is not meant to be, like, a visual review. So just leave it on, or, check out the original post and read it there. I'm just gonna go on with the standard essay. And hi to anyone who found the post from DeviantArt and wanted to just listen to me reading off the essay. Anyways, on to the actual description itself. Recently, as some of you may be aware from my status update post, I bought a copy of Skylanders Trap Team on 3DS. And beforehand, I owned a copy of Skylanders Spyro's Adventure 3DS, as well as Giants on 3DS. Only problem is that I didn't own a portal for the 3DS version, so I could only play Spyro's Adventure, as the previous owner of Spyro's Adventure on 3DS had 2 save files, each with Skylanders equipped. But the owner of Giants 3DS didn't have any save files, so I needed a 3DS portal. Also, for convenience sake, just know that whenever I say the title of any of the games that have a 3DS version, I'm referring to the 3DS version and not the console version, unless stated otherwise. If you know Skylanders, then you would know that the console and 3DS versions are completely different experiences. Just keep that in mind because I describe my familiarity with the 3DS games, which are completely different from the console games. I've played all the console games, except Spyro's Adventure, which I've only played the majority of. As I said earlier, when I first got these games 2 years ago, I was unable to play Giants as I didn't own a portal, but played Spyro's Adventure 2 years ago. I remember loving it for its gameplay. With no portal, I had to rely on the characters given to me on the 2 save files. For context, you can only have 2 Skylanders saved on each save file, unless you want to switch them out for something else, which were Voodooed and Prison Break on save file 1, as well as Dark Spyro and Igniter on another save file. Fun fact, I owned this game before I owned Voodooed, so I actually got to play as Voodooed on 3DS a year before I played as him on console. Because of this, I like to refer to him as Ghost Voodooed. And 2, I don't own Series 1 Dark Spyro. I own Mega Ram Dark Spyro, and an interesting thing is that Dark Spyro has a different moveset from regular Spyro on the 3DS version. I didn't actually know this until someone pointed it out the other day. And regular Spyro has to be one of the worst movesets in the entire game, in my opinion. So I really wanted to get Series 1 Dark Spyro, also because the toy for it is really damn cool. Like, this doesn't happen often. Normally, I think of a Skylander and go, oh, they're cool, I want them, but never actually buy them because I'm not really that materialistic anymore. This might come off as a shocker, but in 2021, 2022, and as of writing this in February 2023, combined, I have only obtained a total of 6 Skylanders. I don't normally like to buy things at all, but this basically gives me a demo of the character. Sucks that the figure isn't cheap for SSA standards online. Might get them someday, but who knows. Alright, onto the starter pack, and this might sound really nitpicky, especially because I didn't even buy the Giant starter pack, I just got the game by itself. But good lord, the starter pack for Giants is just horrendous. Coming in the starter pack, you get the new Giant Skylander T-Rex, and a version of the character from a previous game, Cinder, who in this version has a different pose and a new move known as a Wow Pow. Lastly, we have Punch Pop Fizz, a red variant of the Skylander Pop Fizz. Warning, I'm about to go on a tangent about my experiences with Punch Pop Fizz, so skip that if you like. And I gotta say, I absolutely love this variant. I am addicted to the color red, so this guy existing is amazing. I remember in 4th grade wanting a snapshot to get a red variant so bad, I don't know why. I got this variant years before I got Skylanders Giants on 3DS. I got him secondhand at an EB Games years ago and loved the variant so much. It is very nostalgic. When I got it secondhand, it was in this little bag, of course, and included the sticker sheet, which was just so cool to me. Ironically, I put the sticker from the sticker sheet on my Nintendo 3DS, despite not owning any of the 3DS games at the time. I did this with other Skylanders stickers, mainly with tech elements from Swap Force, which is useful since it makes me know I got Punch Pop Fizz around May 2013. As characters I got for my birthday that year, like Springtime Trigger Happy or Wind Up, were similarly placed there. Tangents about Pop Fizz aside, Cinder and Tree Rex are both characters who appear in the console version of the starter pack, which is not only confusing and discouraging to parents and children alike who might potentially want to buy the game on both systems, but even if they buy it, they now have duplicate figures. And the addition of Pop Fizz is just annoying, since Pop Fizz literally had 2 releases outside of the starter pack in the first wave. The first wave, obviously, being the same wave this game was released in, as he released in a single and triple pack, meaning kids are all the more likely to already own a Pop Fizz. Oh sure, Pop Fizz was a special red variant in the starter pack, but the character is still the exact same. I can't really imagine how this would be appealing to anyone but collectors, and even then, this is less appealing to collectors as well. Personally, what I would have done with this starter pack is release Pop Fizz in Wave 2, put his regular form in the starter pack, add Thumpback instead of Tree Rex to fit the pirate theme more on that later, and add Cinder as the in-game variant instead, with the variant being a reference to the Legend of Spyro in the same form of Dark Spyro. I know Dark Spyro is related to the Legend of Spyro in name only since the colors aren't the same, not counting Crash on the Run retconning this is the main Dark Spyro design, but still. So, as the starter pack, it leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, again, I didn't buy the starter pack, but it still makes me angry. Oh, and another fun fact. Skylanders Battleground was a mobile game released around the same time, which also had a physical starter pack. You want to know what that starter pack included? Jetpack, Cinder, Double Trouble Series 1.5, sometimes Royal Double Trouble, and a magic item. If you bought the Battleground starter pack, and both versions of Giants, you'd own 2 Tree Rex, 2 Jetpacks, and 3 Series 2 Cinders. Not to mention these are repos, and appeared in SSA, so some people might own the Series 1 counterpart. Like, excuse me? Oh god. Okay, onto the game itself. Despite owning a Nintendo 3DS XL, I played the game on my 2DS since it's in much, much better condition. So on to how the toys and Portal are handled in this. Skylanders Giants on the Nintendo 3DS is formatted very similarly, near identically in fact, to the 3DS counterpart of Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, where you can have 2 Skylanders equipped onto your team at once. These Skylanders can be anyone playable in the game. This already has some issues. In this game, instead of placing a Skylander on the portal to play as them, you hold your 3DS or 2DS system of choice to the Portal of Power and wait a few seconds to scan them into the game. Reviewers say this lacks the magic of the console counterpart, but I'll be honest, I got pretty excited the first few times placing Skylanders on. It's a completely new way of experiencing seeing Skylanders pop up in the game. The way the portal doesn't fade into different brightnesses, rather jumps to different levels of brightness, if that makes any sense, feels like it's an animation in a video game, which just feels so much better. And overall, scanning a Skylander in feels just so much more like a magical experience. And the light cores are especially cool. They only light up when you start scanning them in, so it feels like you just awaken the light in them. There is so much fantasy and wonder when I'm adding new Skylanders to my collection. though this can get pretty tedious at times when you want to try out new Skylanders or add a bunch to your collection, or just save progress to a Skylander before switching them out. Yeah, that's another thing. You need to, manually, enter the Skylander just to save them, which, can get very annoying at times. I genuinely loved going through my shelf, picking a new guy to play as, and seeing them in the game. Having a new way to experience my entire collection of toys, well, at least a good chunk of my collection, was just like being a kid and wondering what each Skylander did, to a much, much lesser extent, but it was still amazing. And for that alone, I admire and recommend playing these games. It really does add a lot of value to your collection when you have an extra way to play as them. And not to mention the level packs. The level packs have their own exclusive stages to go along with the console versions. The only Spyro's Adventure level pack I own is Pirate Seas, and it was so cool getting to experience a new area with my existing level pack, and makes the level pack more worthwhile. Some negative effects of the toys, though, is trying to get content in the game. Like the console counterpart, there are elemental gates, and I mentioned previously that switching Skylanders can get tedious at times, since you can only play as 2 Skylanders at once. If you want to change which Skylanders you play as, you have to exit the stage and manually switch the Skylanders you have. This discourages exploration and finding all the content in the game, since it is so tedious to switch to the elemental gates that I started ignoring them after a while. I know that Swap Force and Trap Team fixes this by allowing you to select your entire collection in each stage, but I'm choosing to save that for my Trap Team review, as I feel I'll have mixed feelings on it. I haven't played Trap Team 3DS yet. The Element of the Day feature, though, is amazing. Basically, every day it will randomly generate 2 elements, example, life and fire, and if you play as Skylanders of those elements, then you get a bonus reward after completing a level. This is an amazing feature that encouraged me to try out new Skylanders. Last major issue is the Giants. Again, like the console version, you need a Giant on your team to access special areas to go through, meaning your options are even more limited as there are only 8 Giants. Now, you need a Giant on your team at all times, like the elements. I dropped this after a while, though. Which leads us into the gameplay pretty well. None of the Giants are better than the regular characters. They're all worse in my opinion. Although I'll discuss gameplay in a bit, the game is a high-speed platformer. The Giants are slower. Not only that, but they have a ground pound ability, which is very easy to activate by accident, which can completely ruin the platforming. Makes them incredibly frustrating and not at all optimal for platforming. In a game where the main thing you do is platforming, the primary advantage of the Giants is that they do more damage, but the enemies are significantly weaker in this game, meaning that Giants aren't even necessary. Not to mention, most of them have movesets that don't translate very well at all into a high-speed game like this, such as Ninjini or Eyebrawl. They're completely butchered. I ended up playing as Tree Rex in the earlier stages, but later on switched to Bouncer on my team, who tanked hits and did strong attacks to the larger enemies or bosses. Unlike the console version of Giants in Spyro's Adventure, where you cannot jump at all, minus the bounce pads, not only do you have a jump, and a double jump, but you also have a run button. More of a dash button, since it only lasts a few seconds, but it's very fun. More fun than the console counterparts, I'd argue. Besides the nostalgia, the earlier games aren't usually that fun in my opinion. I've owned Spyro's Adventure on console since September 2022, likewise earlier, and I still haven't finished it since I don't really like the gameplay that much. The game is mainly focused around agility, but has a greater emphasis on exploration rather than the previous installment, which had you speedrunning it all. I have mixed feelings on this, since it does allow me to appreciate the environment a little more and ties it into the console games more closely, but at the same time, a lot of the fun from SSA was the pressure and going for the greatest speed possible. Now this game has branching paths that are so long that I mistake them for continuations of the level. Compared to the first game where it was very linear, that's just less fun to play in my opinion, but allows environments to shine much more. So I am kind of mixed on this again. As a fan of the Skylanders series, it was an amazing time going through these unique environments, but since this is an on-the-go platformer, it certainly weakens the experience, as I much prefer mindlessly blasting through a stage when I'm out and about. So because of this, I'd say the gameplay of Skylanders Spyro's Adventure is much better handheld gaming experience and has much better gameplay. But Skylanders Giants is the better Skylanders experience, especially since Spyro's Adventure reuses level themes from SSA on console, which were already pretty generic. So you don't put much thought into blasting through those locations. Generally, I'm happy that Giants goes for new environments, since I can always return to the Radiant Isles and play Spyro's Adventure stages whenever I please. So the series going forward, they got new stages, which is amazing. I found Giants less fun to speedrun in some stages, but other stages were extremely great for that, which I'll get to later. Skylanders have 2 attacks as opposed to 3, but some of them have 4 unique attributes affecting gameplay. You have a primary attack, a secondary attack, which both usually translates one of the attacks from the console version over to occasional success. The dash button I mentioned earlier is actually its own attack. Run into enemies and they get damaged. Some of them add a bit of variety, such as Bouncer, who shoots a laser ahead of him while he runs. And the last move, not attack, is exclusive to certain Skylanders, where they get either a glide, which slows their descent, or a hover, allowing them to temporarily hover for a few seconds over obstacles. I found the latter especially useful, as it can be good for skipping sections of platforms or waiting for moving platforms. So a lot of the Skylanders who have a dedicated button of flight on the console games all have these hovering or flight moves, and even some that didn't in the console version have one in the 3DS games. Which means that all of the Skylanders in the console version who have mid movesets due to only 2 of the moves being utilized are now the best characters in the game due to their added mobility, sometimes. For certain Skylanders, their movesets are still garbage due to poor execution, such as Sonic Boom, who I love in the console version. And my favorite Skylander in the 3DS games is Gilgrunt. His hover move is incredibly useful, and both his primary and secondary attacks are great, though I ended up using Whirlwind for most of the adventure, which started off because I didn't have her maxed out, so I thought I'd get her maxed out on the 3DS, or maxed out by Giant standards, which is level 15, but later just because I enjoyed her moveset. Her ability to run into clouds and make them explode is incredibly useful and takes out enemies almost instantly. Also, great for large groups of chompies. I honestly want to buy another Whirlwind just because I enjoyed playing in this so much. I only own one Whirlwind, Series 2. I don't want to collect Whirlwinds though. Too many expensive-ass chase variants, and don't even get me started on Breeze, okay? Glitches were fairly minimal, aside the weird collision at times, you know, with some invisible walls, or a glitch where the battle gates didn't open. But apart from that, the gameplay was very smooth. As for the areas, absolutely phenomenal. The game is segmented like a traditional platformer, where instead of going through standard stages, you get worlds. Though how many levels in each world is a bit inconsistent. 3 of these worlds have bosses. 2 of them are just pirate enemies, which, although have fun designs, are very forgettable and have no role in the story outside of being one of the big villain's goons. The big villain and pirates will be explained shortly. And the thing I like most about these areas is that they like to do experimentation with their themes. Except for the first level, which is a self-contained world, every area seems to have progression in the themes. My favorite is the Tech Amusement Park, which is leagues better than Amusement Land or the Abandoned Amusement Park from Imaginators. And sells the themes so much better. I really love the robot NPC who just says, "Welcome, guests, to a world of wonders. Your safety is important to us, and so we just wanted to let you know that it has been 3 minutes since our last accident," which genuinely got me laughing. The dialogue isn't much to write home about, usually, though. Very generic jokes. a "your princess is in another castle" reference, which had me eye-rolling, and incredibly generic dialogue for most of the characters, such as an old cranky turtle who is all "back in my day" and "you darn whippersnappers." It is very annoying, though he only appears once, so it's not anything too bad. Though I guess I can talk about the game's writing once I talk about the story. Anyways, back to the stages. I love the tech amusement park. In the first level of it, you are in this carnival entrance area, and in the second, you're brought to a Wild West theme park, and ending it off is perhaps my second favorite level in the entire game, the Tunnel of Love, where you are in a high-speed river in a dark tunnel with tons of hearts floating around you, and then you jump into these behind-the-scenes areas where you can see parts of the ride under construction. It is honestly amazing, and I loved going through all the areas. It kind of disappointed me you never ride a Ferris wheel in it, though. As for the others, you got a swamp full of rusty gears and machinery, which leaves me curious as to what used to be there, as the machines clearly aren't Archean. A sand-themed area that turns into an ancient Egyptian desert, which preceded the Golden Desert from Trap Team by an entire 2 years. A tiki island with some amazing area progression. I love the last stage, and I could swear that one labyrinth with the spikes I've seen in a dream before. Like, I had a dream of going through the same area at night. Weird. And although I discussed some other areas out of order, the last one you go to is a pirate fortress area, which has 2 parts. 2 stages in the first part, and then the final stage and the boss fight in the second part. The stage Ships Ahoy is my favorite in the entire game, largely due to it playing the auto-gyro adventure piloting music in the stage, which is so goddamn hype. Honestly, the stage after is kind of anticlimactic by comparison due to the music choices alone. Lastly, before I discuss the game's story, I'll get to my opinion on how this works as a handheld experience. Before getting to this part of the essay, I brought the game out and played it after ordering something at Tim's. Just opening the game as I waited for the order to get completed, since it's a simple action that goes by fairly quick. And the game works really well. It wasn't the complete experience, obviously, on account of having radio music in the background and needing to have the game's audio turned off since I was in public. The fast nature allows it to be really good for time challenges since I'm frantically going through the area without much thought. I view Super Mario 3D Land as the pinnacle of handheld platformers. Just simple and mindless fun to get through the day. And it's definitely like that, except with less complicated range of movements. If that's a good or bad thing is up to you. I totally see myself bringing this game off to trips, or just bringing the game around me when I need to pass the time somewhere. Might actually get back into portable gaming because of this, not gonna lie. I'm more of a handheld gamer than a console or PC gamer anyways. And I kind of fell out of the 3DS after soaking so many hundreds of hours into it back in late 2020 to early 2021. But it serves its job as a portable game very well, even though my 2DS probably isn't built for that sort of stuff. Given its form, it's an OG 2DS, not the new one, so it doesn't close. It's shaped like a fucking slice of bread. Alright, now moving on to the story. Spoilers for Giants, obviously. But also spoilers for Spyro's Adventure. So, just keep that in mind. A quick little side note. I kind of wish the game had more bosses, and that the bosses had designs that actually fit the area. Rustbeard I can get behind, since he's in a swamp filled with rusted giant metals. But someone named Squidbeard in a tiki island doesn't really make that much sense. Absolutely, I would have adored an Egyptian or carnival-themed pirate. That would have been amazingly goofy. Though Goofy may not have been what they were going for, as Frightbeard, the villain, can be a bit more serious. So, the story revolves around Captain Frightbeard, the pirate character drawn in the post, who was a great evil pirate 10,000 years ago, though was locked away in a chest called the Chest of Exile by the Archeans. For context, the Archeans are these massive titanic robots who once took over and enslaved Skylands. How do you be such a menace that the Archeans have to lock you away? I'm honestly impressed by the pirate. And then he was recently somehow released from the chest, despite the fact that the chest hasn't been opened yet. He was separated from the chest and is after finding it, as the chest also contains a full army of pirates he plans on unleashing. Also, the chest has his sword on it, which, as I'll discuss later, is a pretty powerful sword. I'm assuming Frightbeard getting released has to do something with Chaos reactivating the Iron Fist of Arcus in the console game, since there's no way Frightbeard being released around the same time is a coincidence, and overall it's pretty cool that the game's story ties into the console version, which really does support the fact that I like to think of the handheld games as complementary to the main experience. Though there are several canonical issues that come from the fact that kids or adults could be playing either game before the other, so Flynn treats it like you've never been in the Dread Yacht in Giants 3DS, despite the game most definitely taking place after the console version. The reason why I love Spyro's Adventure so much is because it really does feel like its own isolated Skylanders experience. It doesn't use any of the console version's NPCs and has its own established area, to an extent that I wanted to see more of the Radiant Isles in the future. My fanfiction using mainly original characters is likely inspired by how much I loved Spyro's Adventure having its own characters. But I think if later games took the same approach, making its own unique settings and characters for each game, it'd just feel tiresome and bland after a while. And if they stuck with the Radiant Isles, it would feel more like a villain of the week ordeal. So I like the Radiant Isles staying in Spyro's Adventure, and for the other games to be more approachable to fans of the console versions. My only problem is that I absolutely hate Flynn as a character. He is the most insufferable character in the entire series, and he's basically the main character. That might also be why I like the Radiant Isles so much, because it's the only place where he isn't around. And guess what? He is just as annoying here in any of the other games. He doesn't even boom at any point, which is the only redeemable trait about him. It's nice that the game references his bad relationship with pirates, though he mistakes a map for a cake recipe, which gets a really lame and anticlimactic joke at the ending, and it turns out to be a map to the Chest of Exile, or a part of it. You have to go to different locations to find different pieces of the map. The journey follows a similar story structure to the games, where you have a primary objective and you have a bunch of pit stops to make along the way, to essentially do errands so that you can get to the thing or go to the place you need. Then the story generally takes a back seat, and the villain doesn't really do much until the ending. In the first level, as a bit of in-stage storytelling, you can actually see Frightbeard's ship fly past you, and I kind of wish they did that in most of the other stages. It'd feel like you're racing to get to the Chest of Exile against him, and would remind the player of why they're on this journey, since I kind of stopped caring about Frightbeard's plan until around the end. The game has a total of 4 cutscenes, doubling the beginning and ending cutscene from Spyro's Adventure, though it's just starting stage, cutscene after the first level, cutscene before the last level, and then the ending. So it's sort of just hyping up the final level and giving players further context about the adventure early on, which is nice. Though, again, Frightbeard doesn't really feel like a threat, despite the fact that I think they were trying to make him a more serious villain here. Compared to Spyro's Adventure with Hector, he's kind of just there. As of writing this, Hector is my favorite villain in the series, just because he actually feels like a threat. What I'm about to say will require you to know Spyro's Adventure 3DS's story, and I won't really be explaining context in this paragraph, so just skip to later in the video with the timestamp on screen, and I'll be talking about Hector for a bit. The primary reason why Hector felt like a threat, and the reason I remembered him throughout the entire story of the game, was the fact that he played a part in the gameplay. Every level in Spyro's Adventure, around the end, a timer would start ticking down, and that would be the amount of time you have left before Hector finds you and gives you an instant game over. And when that timer gets low, oh, you're fucked. He's actively zapping you with lightning as you continue through the stage. Now, keep in mind, I first played Spyro's Adventure when I was 14, and I haven't replayed it since. But, bro, the pressure was on each stage. I felt like Hector was about to kill my Skylanders at any moment, and I need to get the fuck out of there as fast as possible. Every stage, Hector felt like a threat, and the sanctuary was the only place where you were safe from his terror. Hector knows you are a threat to his success and doesn't waste any time trying to kill you. Compared to every villain in the series where they play it easy on you because they think of themselves as that powerful, or villains being anticlimactic due to being weaker than they were hyped up to be, Hector is a legit powerful villain. In his first cutscene, he comes out of nowhere and doesn't give any time to introduce himself or talk down to Wendell or Fargus or the Portal Master. He manifests and zaps Fargus out of existence and leaves. For all you know, he just killed Wendell's dad. He shouts "Father" only to see him gone. His tone of voice changing to reflect that he is both sad that his father was taken by Hector and fear that he will come for him and potentially the Portal Master at any moment's notice. Hector doesn't waste any time, he is on a mission. And the second to last level where it goes to this cold silence around the end, oh boy, that was chilling. And really set the tone for the final level. And in the final level, I was struggling a lot during the platforming section. You are so close to destroying his mirror, and he wants to make sure you are killed. Hector is an amazing villain compared to the entirety of the series, because he actually has stakes. Also, I might just like that game more because it doesn't really have that much in the way of comedy. I'm not saying that the game needs to be more serious or have an intimidating villain. I was just very disappointed that, compared to Spyro's Adventure, I wasn't as immersed into the villain of the story. By comparison to Hector from Spyro's Adventure, Frightbeard is just someone who is only hyped up around the end, but I did get pretty excited to take him down. Only problem is, after you finish a level before a boss fight, you see the boss at the end of the stage. They talk to you, and then the level ends normally by going to the completion screen. And then you go to Flynn's ship, and have to select the boss fight manually to fight them, completely ruining any immersion or suspense with these villains. Though once you actually fight Frightbeard, in his defense, he isn't an easy fight. Though his speedy dash attack with the cut-off yar sound effect is so out of place that I found it kind of funny. His sword has powers over multiple elements, which was super interesting during his fight, and taking him down was also super satisfying. But him being killed and turning into a pool of XP is just so anticlimactic. No special defeat animation really soured it all. By the ending, you get a joke referencing the cake, which has pissed me off because the game ends on a joke. Frightbeard is gone and the day is saved. Again, I'm going to compare this to the ending as far as Adventure 3DS, where it was almost heartfelt in a way. This was just kind of disappointing. Despite having a more involved story, the game completely fails to keep me engaged in whatever happens next, as the gameplay was the primary motivator. Level themes are extremely unique, fun, and varied, though the stages are held back by the elemental gates. Gameplay in general being worse due to the feeling that I should have a giant with me at all times. Still, I would recommend playing Skylanders Giants on Nintendo 3DS to anyone who enjoys Skylanders. It is a fun game with the same charm, and a completely new way to experience the series. So, if you like Flynn, the humor of the Skylanders, and aren't really there for a dedicated story, I'd recommend it. Or if you like platformers more than dungeon crawlers, like, if you're a fan of the platformer game Skylanders crossed over with throughout the series, it's not a question. Play this game. Alright, I don't really do outros for these that often. Thank you for listening to this. To anyone who's, like, watching this from YouTube and, isn't familiar with the DeviantArt, sorry, I don't really do content like this that often, on YouTube. I do have other essays on my DeviantArt, though currently the main thing I'm doing is a Skylanders fanfiction. So, I don't know, check that out if interested. I'm assuming, due to the, average, Skylanders community on YouTube, that you guys wouldn't be, but I don't know. Just in case, otherwise, I just hope you guys enjoyed this. After writing the essay, I started playing Skylanders Trap Team on 3DS, so I will be doing a similar video on that. And besides that, I don't know, just have a good day, and thank you for watching this video.